So here we are. This is going to be my fight reaction to the fight last weekend between Benavidez and Oleksandr Gvozdyk. As I was talking about in my prediction video, I was looking for. I was predicting an upset. Didn't happen. It was a close fight. And there are a lot of things to take away from this, so let's go into it. Now, before I go into it, I want to say that this was by far David Benavidez his most impressive performance, because I wondered why. I wondered basically what Benavidez would be looking like when he is faced with an elite fighter that is similar in size, similar in stature, and overall similar in his overall, like all the physical advantages that Benavidez would have. How would he do against guys where he doesn't have those advantages? And when looking at this fight, there is how I would summarize it, is that David Benavidez overperformed. So he performed very well, but he also was too used to being the bigger, stronger guy. And Oleksandr Gvozdyk, on the other hand, he underperformed. What I mean by that is that he, like with the ring rust that he probably still had, he wasn't used to fighting a 12-round fight anymore, and he was too conservative, which resulted in a match that was what many people were to believe was going to be a one-sided fight for Benavidez. It never was, but we will get into that, as that is something for the segment that I'm going to keep for the end. Because at the end I'm going to give an award for the worst judge of this week. And that has something to do with the analysis of this fight, how the fight went down, and what are we looking at here. So stay tuned where I reveal the worst judge of the week. If you saw the scorecards, you might have an idea who I'm referring to. But let's go into names and specifics at the end. For now, the fight went the opposite way of how I thought it would go. I actually thought to see a very dominant, a very game Oleksandr Gvozdyk in the first 8 rounds. And I thought that he would actually start to fade towards that point. But already at that point, having banked enough rounds to take the fight to the scorecards with a dominant lead, that Benavidez would only be able to score knockdowns or even to score a knockout, which I never thought was going to happen during this fight, which a lot of people were led to believe, but considering what I think of Benavidez, how amazing he is as a fighter, I don't think he has the power like a Beterbiev, like a Bivol, and quite frankly like an Oleksandr Gvozdyk. It showed. So basically it really looked like Benavidez was taking away from the sparring, that he was going to think to go into this fight believing that he could beat Gvozdyk and give him the beating of his life. These are his own words, which didn't happen. They both actually at the end of the fight, I would say Benavidez looked the worse for wear, and it really looked like Gvozdyk trained for a 15-round fight. He seemed like he had a lot left in the tank after the 12th round finished, and Benavidez kind of faded out towards after the 10th round. I believe he really used up all of his efforts, and he was putting in everything into the shots early on in the fight. So I have the fight scored following like this. I believe Gvozdyk opened very well. I think he took the first round, and then it was basically a landslide, and the rounds progressed. each time in the same manner, in the same way, it was Gvozdyk was just too concerned, too afraid to put anything onto his shots, only here and there, but most of the times he was just padding with the jab. He wasn't really putting much into it, keeping volume, and in the same way, like Kovalev, and I think Gvozdyk is way better at the moment than Sergey Kovalev was when he fought Canelo back in 2018, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about that. I was after the second Triple G fight, but maybe I'm having the year not completely correct in my mind, but I thought it was 2018, maybe 2019. With that said, with that out of the way, I do think in this very similar way, we were looking at a Gvozdyk that was very concerned about his gas tank. I think it had to do with the fact that, that he hasn't fought, and this was like one of the things that I predicted, like one of the questions I was asking in my prediction video was, will the ring rust that Gvozdyk has, and even though he took 3 fights, not nearly at the level, and they were also not scheduled for 12-round fights, so he hadn't been in a 12-round fight, so I think he wasn't sure if he was able to last all the 12 rounds, and it made him very cagey, very afraid, very hesitant to really put it on Benavidez, and each round kind of progressed in the same way, and this had to do with Gvozdyk opening strong, Benavidez pressuring Gvozdyk for like 1.5 minutes. Gvozdyk was like, okay, I'm not gonna turn it into second gear. I'm gonna keep this pace up because I'm afraid I'm gonna gas out. I'm gonna get tired. And then Benavidez just went into a second gear and started to basically steal the round. Each time the fight went, each time the next round started until round 8, each round was the same. It was 1.5 minutes, like basically till the halfway point. The first minute was a good minute for Gvozdyk doing his work, working off the jab, moving around, and then Benavidez realizing, okay, I have to get into second gear, turn up the heat, and then he started to land significant shots and actually going into the mid-range to let go of those ferocious combinations. Benavidez was fighting in those spurts very well, very patient as well, and was very game. I do think that Benavidez could have benefited more from this fight. I think he could have performed even better if he fought more smartly, because it was basically like he was going in there the same way how he would normally go in there, with a lot of confidence, with a lot of belief. I can waltz over this guy like any other fighter that he has faced, and let's be real, that was never going to happen. And I never thought that it was going to happen, which is why I predicted an upset. We got a very close fight, and I have to be honest, I was a bit disappointed by the performance of Gvozdyk. I thought he, and this is why you should do a 12-rounder to some level, like with a guy that's dangerous but not as dangerous as Benavidez. You need to get back into the ring believing that you can fight for 12 rounds as you could before. And I think at the end he had so much left in the gas tank. Like we saw the Gvozdyk of old, and basically started to realize like, oh, I still have a lot of energy. Let's go. Let's fucking go. He started to mix it up. Even in the 12th round, Benavidez had just this sigh of relief after the 12th round. Like, oh shit, this was a lot harder than I thought it would be. So basically the fight also where I was also a bit disappointed with on Gvozdyk's side, but actually Benavidez, kudos to him, he was able to utilize the 2-1, where I thought Gvozdyk, who has the better 2-1, would be able to kind of get a reaction of the 2, which he landed on regular basis, sometimes with a lot of oomph into those punches. And then basically catching Benavidez coming squared in, which was exactly what I predicted would happen. And it happened the whole night. I mean, even in the earlier rounds, it was just that Benavidez started to get into second gear and Gvozdyk was just keeping the same tempo just consistently, which, you know, you need to switch it up and, you know, increase the tempo, even if you're going to gas out. I mean, you don't want to lose each round when you are starting off well. And basically, because you're afraid that you're in the end of the fight gonna gas out, like take a risk. I mean, it's easier said than done. I have never fought a 12-round fight, and you know, it doesn't really matter. I'm just looking at this fight and analyzing what I saw. But basically, you like gassing out should not be your biggest concern, especially if you believe you are in the best shape of your life. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that, to be fair, as I already stated. So the bodywork of Benavidez was really efficient. Sometimes it definitely seemed to hurt Gvozdyk temporarily, making him like bend over, and where Benavidez would punish him with the quick combinations, and Gvozdyk didn't have an answer. Each time it happened too late in the round. Gvozdyk is a good fighter, and in the first opening of each and every single round, he was able to maintain distance, sometimes push David Benavidez back, but yeah, you have to commit to something if you want to keep like a young, strong, physical guy like Benavidez off you. So yeah, that is... with that being said, I thought this was the best performance by Benavidez by far. Even though people were looking at it like, yeah, this was disappointing. I don't think it was disappointing. It's just that the competition, like I said before, the competition in the light heavyweight division is so much better than in the super middleweight division, which is why he was able to run over these guys, having a huge physical advantage, both in speed and in agility and overall boxing ability and ferociousness. He would be, of course, he would be able to go over all of these guys that, you know, that even though they are impressive in their own league, they're not, you know, this is like when you have a division where you have bigger guys who have an enormous repertoire, have tons of experience, both in the amateurs who are, you know, like in the super middleweight division, even the Demetrius Andrade never had an amateur career like the likes of Gvozdyk, Beterbiev, and Bivol, or even the Kovalevs. The same goes for the Caleb Plants, for the Billy Joe Saunders. You know, like they're not as elite. Even Callum Smiths and the Liam Smiths. You know, like these guys, they're very solid. They're very good. They're world level, but they're not elite. They're not like this. They're not like the, you know, like they're the elite, and then they're, you know, like there is world level and there is elite, and elite is always just a little bit above, you know, the overall perception of what a world level is. Like the elite are always just, they rise above that, and I think Benavidez is part of that elite. Canelo is part of that elite. Bivol, the likes of Alexander Usyk. Even Tyson Fury at some point was part of that elite, even though he didn't have that amateur pedigree. He just had that insane physical advantage combined with a lot of athleticism and a lot of flair in lots of dimensions, even though he is now really on the slide. The likes of Tank Davis, the Shakur Stevensons, that, like, those are elite guys. Those are the guys that, you know, define generation. Crawford, in a way. I mean, the list goes on. Those are elites. And when you have good world level guys, like, you know, like Spence, Crawford Spence. You saw what happens in those fights. It's like when you have world level, like a world level, good, solid world champion fighting a generational elite, like the guys who are really, you know, the special ones. Let's just call them that. So this is what that looks like when you have two of the elites fighting each other. It's not going to be dominant. It's going to be. It's not going to be one-sided, and hence why I think Benavidez wants Canelo. After the fight was said and done, Benavidez was looking to face Canelo rather than the Beterbievs and the Bivol, because the big question is here, and I think even though this was his best performance so far, it's not enough for light heavyweight, not yet. So yeah, it makes sense. First go to fight Canelo, and then go up, because then you cannot do anything anymore in the super middleweight division. And you have to move up to fight the likes of, or fight the fight winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev. So yeah, I think he's aware that he is not ready for that challenge. Not yet. I mean, I think he will be, but it's still going to take some... it's good to take Canelo, who already lost to Bivol, who in all in all fairness, he is not going to beat Canelo. Canelo's not going to beat Artur Beterbiev, I mean. So, yeah. Overall, this fight leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I think a lot of it had to do with the media surrounding this fight, because the media is portraying this like it was a one-sided fight, a dominant fight for Benavidez. One-sided. Like, really one-sided. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you... I mean, how is this a one-sided fight? It was absolutely not. It was a competitive fight where Gvozdyk was able to take the last 4 rounds very dominantly. If I would not even have been surprised if this was a fight that could have gone to the scorecards, ending up in a draw. That is how I viewed the fight. But in the end, I do credit Benavidez. I do think he won fair and square. I think I gave Gvozdyk 5 rounds. I gave him round 1. I gave him round 8, 9, 11 and 12. The 10th round I could see go either way. I think Benavidez landed the more significant punches in the end of the round and kind of steal it in the same way as he did the rounds before, the ones that he took. But yeah, for me this was not a dominant win at all. This was a win for Benavidez, a good win, but not dominant. It was a competitive fight, and as a boxing fan, I enjoyed it. As somebody who likes more technical fights, which is so much fun to look at if you really look for the details, look for the different dimensions, see how these fights are progressing, makes analyzing them a lot of fun, a lot of ways to look at them. So anyway, and then we go to the final segment, which is who is the worst judge of this week, and the name is called Don Trella. Don Trella, who gave this fight 11 rounds to 1. 11. Like even David Moretti, who is notorious for horrible judging, he wasn't so outlandishly off with the scoring. 119 to 109. I don't know what he was watching. Look him up. Look up who he is. And there is why I am doing this segment. I'm going to do this each and every time I see a fight and there is some horrible scoring. There's going to be one judge. It's going to be on the stand, and I'm going to call out because there is a lot of money in it. And if you are one such like myself, where you see a fight where you are thinking like, okay, I think there can be an upset here, of course, there are judges in place to make sure that doesn't happen, because all the betting apps, all the betting and money that goes around into sports betting, you make a lot of, if a lot of people believe there's going to be an upset, you don't want that to happen, because then you have to give a lot of handouts to the people who believe there is going to be an upset. So that when you bet next time and you know which judges are going to be in place, look them up beforehand. If you see this name on the page and you believe there is a rising star that's going to fall, and you see Don Trella, you know that you shouldn't bet on this fight, or at least not on the underdog. That is why I'm going to put it in here, because betting is a nasty business. So we're going to break that down for you here, why it is good to point it out. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed my reaction to this fight, my reaction to the overall performance of Benavidez. I want to congratulate him. I think he is going to go on to do amazing things in boxing, and I will definitely be excited to see him fight Canelo. I don't think it's going to happen, and I just really hope he's not going to go down the same route as Canelo, who was built up in the same way that Benavidez was being built up. And I just really would hate to see him become a believer of his own hype, which is kind of what Canelo became, and why I started to really dislike him at a certain point. So, and that has nothing to do with the boxer, with what they are presenting in the ring. This has just to do with the attitude. I hope Benavidez stays true to how he has been overall throughout his career. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like. React to, send your responses in the comment section. I'm really curious what you guys are thinking, and how you're seeing this fight, yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do me a favor, hit subscribe so I can, this just to encourage me to keep making these videos, and I'll be looking forward to the next one. I will also review Martin and Davis. Great fight, beautiful knockout, more or less exactly how I thought it would go. But yeah, I will dive into that on a thing tomorrow somewhere there.